Hallo, guten Abend.
Hi, hello.
Hallo.
Warum ist denn ein Bild? Warum ist hier ein Bild?
Wir müssen schon mal stumm sein, weil der Livestream gleich startet.
Sag mal, Jakob, ganz kurz, soll ich jetzt vielleicht doch besser auf einer anderen Plattform zusehen, weil ich gehöre gar nicht zum Podium.
Ja, wir machen eigentlich alles nur über Livestream. Genau.
Alles
Der
klar,
startet
dann
jetzt
gehe ich mal
gleich.
wieder raus. Schönen Abend allerseits.
Wenn du Fragen hast, schreib in den Chat.
Danke.
Ja, guten Abend. Herzlich willkommen zur Veranstaltung Polens Linke gegen den Krieg. Ein Gespräch über linke Außenpolitik mit Razem aus Polen. Ich bin Jacob Nuhn von der emanzipatorischen Linken in Bremen. Ich werde das heute Abend gemeinsam mit Norbert Schepers moderieren, den man, weiß ich nicht, ob man ihn gerade online auch schon auf dem Livestream schon sieht, im Bild. Wir haben die Veranstaltung organisiert als emanzipatorische Linke Bremen, als kleine Gruppe zusammen mit dem Landesverband der Linken Bremen. Vielen Dank da an die Unterstützung erstmal. Ich würde jetzt erstmal am Anfang kurz was zum Ablauf sagen, wie wir die Veranstaltung so aufgebaut haben und dann unsere Gäste gleich vorstellen. Die Idee zur Veranstaltung kam, als der Ukraine-Krieg gestartet hat und wir zusammensaßen und überlegt haben, wir wollen gerne die Perspektiven von Menschen, aber vor allem auch von linken Gruppen aus Ostmitteleuropa, Osteuropa mehr bei uns mit in den Diskurs bringen. Leute, die einfach näher dran sind an dem Konflikt, die teilweise eine andere Position dazu auch haben als wir hier in Deutschland und als wir hier als die Linke und hoffen, dass es ein fruchtbarer Austausch wird, einfach mit anderen Positionen aus Ost- und Mitteleuropa. Also das soll heute eine Auftaktveranstaltung sein. Ich hoffe, es werden noch mehrere Folgen. Mal gucken, wie wir das so organisiert bekommen als kleine Gruppe. Bleibt da auf jeden Fall auf dem Laufenden. Wir werden das Gespräch heute auf Englisch machen, weil es für Zofia und Magdalena angenehmer ist, auf Englisch zu sprechen. Ihr könnt eure Fragen im Chat aber gerne auch auf Deutsch stellen. Verstehen beide Deutsch und ich werde sie sonst auch einfach übersetzen. Genau. Also wir machen es am Anfang so, ich habe ein paar Fragen vorbereitet, die würde ich den beiden einfach stellen Und ihr könnt parallel schon Fragen im Chat stellen und wir werden die dann nacheinander, kriege ich die rübergereicht und werde die dann in das Gespräch mit einspeisen. Der Chat ist auch im Nachhinein noch verfügbar. Ihr könnt ihn also auch nochmal nachschauen. Ich würde gerne erstmal unsere beiden Gäste vorstellen und die Partei Razem, von der die beiden kommen. Wir haben heute zu Gast Zofia Malisz und Magdalena Milenkovska. Zofia ist im Landesrat von Razem, also dem zentralen Parteigremium. Wir haben keinen richtigen Vorstand, sondern es ist also nicht so personenzentriert, sondern es gibt quasi so einen Kreis, der das managt, wenn ich es richtig verstanden habe. Und ist Mitglied im Verband Ausland, und Magdalena Milenkovska ist von Razem Berlin. Beide sind, und deswegen haben wir sie heute auch eingeladen, hatten den Kontakt aktiv im Büro für internationale Fragen, also beschäftigen sich für die Partei mit Außenpolitik und Sicherheitspolitik. Razem ist eine relativ kleine Partei, ist 2015 gegründet worden als Antwort auf die Situation, dass es in Polen zwar viele linke Grassroot-Initiativen gibt und eine relativ aktive Zivilgesellschaft, linke Zivilgesellschaft, aber eigentlich damals keine Vertretung dieser Initiativen im polnischen Parlament. Die einzige linke Partei im Parlament war lange die SLD. Das ist die Nachfolgepartei der polnischen Arbeiterpartei, die aber, was so gesellschaftspolitische Fragen anbelangt, eher konservativ ist, würde ich mal sagen, aus so einer Außenperspektive. Ihr könnt dem zustimmen oder könnt freundlich mit dem Kopf schütteln. Und die vor allem in den Nullerjahren auch eher wirtschaftsliberal war. Ja, also wo dann irgendwie aus einer linken Perspektive so die Frage war, ist das denn eigentlich überhaupt eine linke Partei oder ist es nicht eher eine Sammlungsbewegung von Leuten, die von vor 89 übrig geblieben sind? Razem ist 2015 dann gegründet worden, ist auch direkt zur Parlamentswahl angetreten, hat damals 3,6% bekommen aus dem Stand, eigentlich gar nicht so ein schlechtes Ergebnis. 2019 sind dann Leute von Razem auf der Liste dieser SLD-Partei angetreten und seitdem hat Razem auch 6 Mitglieder im Sejm, ist also im polnischen Parlament vertreten. Die Partei ist aber auch an zahlreichen Kampagnen beteiligt, zum Beispiel gegen das Abtreibungsverbot. Bei den Protesten war Razem mit dabei, aber auch immer wieder bei Arbeitskämpfen, zum Beispiel vom Pflegepersonal. Genau. Und was noch vielleicht ganz interessant ist zu wissen, aus einer deutschen Perspektive vielleicht auch eher ungewohnt, es gibt auch Auslandsverbände von Razem. Also weil viele Polinnen eben im Ausland leben, gibt es auch dort eine aktive Beteiligung. Und die beiden haben wir heute hier, die beide in Deutschland leben. Okay, I will switch to English now and would like to ask my first question. Reading the news on the morning of February 24th, have you been shocked by Russia's attack on Ukraine? That would be my first question.
I wasn't particularly shocked. In a sense, if it wasn't unexpected that there would be Russian aggression towards Ukraine. I was maybe a little bit surprised that this will take a form of a full-scale invasion. And I think this view is shared by many military experts. And this is also something that we can see that we saw in the first days of the invasion, that it didn't really go according to the Russian plans, that it was not very well prepared in terms of intelligence information, I think, and people that know a lot about this are analyzing actually the reasons why Putin has decided to realize his imperialist objectives by launching a full-scale invasion. So in that sense, it was a bit of a surprise. But for me personally, because I guess this is what your question was about, I was born in 1979, and I have seen, as a small child, but I can still remember the dissolution of the Soviet Union in the 90s, and then a short period in the 90s also. And I have experienced firsthand, so I saw the Russian tanks leaving my hometown of Szczecin. I actually lived most of my childhood next to a very, very large Russian soldiers were basically stationed there. And now there is a NATO headquarters, symbolically exactly in the same place. So I have seen these tanks leaving, and I was, for most of my youth, under the impression, not yet then very political, I wasn't very political, but I was under the impression that things are going well, that Russia will be slowly, democratizing itself, maybe, perhaps even opening itself to the West. It seemed so, not only in the sense of, becoming a capitalist state like it is now, but also maybe taking over some of the valuable values that the West has had. And all that sleep that I was in was actually ended in 2014. So for me, the annexation, the hybrid war, the first invasion of Ukraine in 2014 and the annexation of Crimea was a big shock. It actually compelled me to join the political party, which is Razem, apart from the rise of right-wing movements in Poland, which was also a big factor. So for me, this is what happened this year is actually a very, very logical consequence of Russia's imperialist politics that has been being ramped up over the last 20 years. So I can understand, on the other hand, the shock and the kind of incredulity and a little bit of a sense of shame that the West, and maybe perhaps I can kind of feel that this is also the case in Germany. These feelings are prevalent after the current invasion of Russia on Ukraine. I remember the public opinion in Germany in 2014 was perhaps, there was indignation, but the reaction was not as strong as it is today. To be honest, I do not really understand why not. I think something has changed in the public opinion in Germany over the years. I have in 2014, I saw people like this journalist Polens Linke write a lot on TV. These days, I saw her only once, and she has, a fully Kremlin-aligned apologist kind of a stance, which used to irritate me very much in 2014. So I'm happy that this is changing. But so this feeling that we were stupid in the West, I can understand it, and I'm kind of in a sense happy that there is a reckoning with the previous position that Germany or the West has been holding towards Russia, but I am still wondering why it had not happened in 2014 and why is it happening now. But of course, better late than never. Yeah, so that was my feeling on that day.
Would you like to add something, Magdalena?
I think it seems like I'm, not as well informed as Zosia, because I must admit that I was surprised, because for me, I think I was coming through, the point, what would be Putin's gain, what he wants. And I felt that basically, staying in Donetsk and having these republics joining, being controlled by Russia would be his end goal. And of course, I was very wrong.
Yeah, so I think, I myself, I am still thinking, how is that possible? Putin has been preparing this actually for a very long time, very in plain view, right? So since 2014, for me, the fact that he actually went into Crimea was already the first domino stone, right? Or the first move on the chessboard. There was, move A, and there had to be move B at some point. So to develop, let's say, initiatives like Nord Stream 2 or, sign things like that and still believe in Wandel durch Handel and, kind of sleepwalking into this after he bombed Syria, after he, it's still unbelievable to me that there was not more attention being paid to the military development of the Russian army, the modernization. It was all reported on, but there was not much analysis in the West in the last 10 years what this actually means. But when we look at this in hindsight now, from the perspective of what's going on at the moment, it is pretty clear, you know, to keep Russian troops in Transnistria, which is this little strip of land in Moldavia, to basically put you know, Belarus and Lukashenko under his boot, you know, to control basically that state, which is now very crucial in the invasion and the military front towards Kiev. You know, fomenting dissent all the time in Donbass. This was all leading to this moment, and it's really shocking to me that I say we as the West, right? Both of us living in Germany, and also I consider Poland, you know, as part of NATO and European Union, you know, that we have not really paid enough attention to me. That's what's shocking at the moment.
Thank you. You already mentioned like some parts of the German discussion about the debate. What's going on at the moment after the attack. Like, do we have to reconsider our national security policies and all that huge debate? I'm interested to hear from you. Is there a similar debate in Poland? And if so, what is Razem's position in this debate? Is there a similar debate on national security and how to change like our politics and so on?
I think maybe you will find it interesting that, you know, basically we as leftists in Poland speak sort of, you know, the same voice as, you know, the ruling party. That doesn't happen very often, or the opposition. There's actually a very small group of basically some strange organizations linked to Russia. But here, we speak with in one voice. And but I think where we differ is that even though we say we need NATO now because we have no other security guarantees, we are, of course, stay critical, where I think in the mainstream debate in Poland, there is basically no talking about NATO as also aggressor, or, basically an institution that should be reformed, or the role of the US in the institution. But yeah, otherwise, I think we are not very different to, basically political parties in the region. It's very, very few voices in the whole region that would have stances closer to the Western left.
Yeah, I think so. A few days ago, we had this united session of the two chambers of the Polish Parliament during that was the anniversary of Polish access to NATO, actually. And we had President Zełenski also giving an address, and our President Duda gave an address, which to me, I mean, NATO for us is a necessity, and it has shown its use at the moment, right? And we as Razem, we are glad as private citizens who have families in Poland and who live in Poland that we have this protection. But for example, during that address of our president, of the Polish President Duda, a few days ago, this kind of sense of basically a declaration of fealty towards the United States that was sometimes, shining through his what he was saying, that we will forever and ever, stand and be together with the United States, and this transatlantic partnership is so important. I mean, to us as a left party, we can only smile, and on the one hand, smile when we hear this. On the other hand, we have Razem was basically founded with the efforts of people and out of communities that were the first ones that were protesting Iraq war in front of the embassies of the US. We have basically been, Razem grows out of anti-imperialist, anti-austerity feminist movements. We are very passionate about reporting and kind of following, for example, the emancipation of Latin American states from US imperialism and threat. So our MP went to Bolivia to be as a observer of their democratic process last year. Yeah, we support Kurdish causes and the Palestinian cause. We are co-founders of kind of committees in the parliament for the Palestinian cause and the Kurdish cause particularly. So these things are really important for us, and you can imagine actually our disappointment when we sometimes see that the Western left is not reciprocating with solidarity towards Eastern Europe and our friends in Eastern Europe. The Baltic states and Finland with the same kind of understanding of our justified security concerns, to use this phrase.
So may I ask, for us as part of the German left, the question remains, what do we have to change in order to be honest and realize what security threats are there, what kind of solidarity with Eastern Europe is needed on one hand, and on the other hand, of course, the struggle for peace against imperialist wars, and etc. What is your stance concerning the Western left or the German left? If Magda, I may ask so broadly.
Yeah. Magda, you want to go?
I mean, I think, and we really try to highlight that in our article, basically listen to us, and also we are also not, we are not experts on Ukraine. Ukrainians are. So our first reaction was to turn to them and of course to like-minded groups. That's why the social movement came along. That actually now it's, I think, becoming a very popular for its scale. I think they're very small, but popular among the, Western and not only left, because they came with very good, postulates that we should listen to. I mean, maybe I don't want to go deeper into the, the cancellation of debt, and I would like to maybe talk about later. But first of all, we listen to the voice that this is, an aggressor and we're fighting a war. If we are fighting war and NATO will not join this war, which of course we don't want to join, we have to do anything in our power to support Ukraine. That is actually fighting, we believe, for us, right? So we cannot leave it alone. So any step, the toughest sanctions, anything in our power will be supported by us. And maybe I'll give voice to Zofia.
So that's the reason why we support the supply of weapons into Ukraine, which is one difference between us, I think. We also, I think, object to kind of diluting the argument with, or taking the gaze away from Ukraine, and the bloodshed and the crimes that are being done there by Putin's military, via, let's say, moving the discourse on the Western left towards things like that are more abstract, like that we want peace and we should stop the war machine. I mean, we agree with these statements, but we think at the moment this is not the time to go onto this abstract plane. We need to go down to the level of the region, to the Ukrainians, ask them what they need. And we have these wonderful partners, as Magdalena said, in Socjalny Ruch. This is a social movement in the Ukraine, which is socialist, and they also fight. They have formed platoons, socialist platoons that are also fighting with the Ukrainian army. And we support their general cause and their existence, but also they have this demand to, which is, I think, very reasonable, and I think it is also, you know, for the German left, could be easily adopted, and you could definitely help raise this voice of Socjalny Ruch and Ukrainians by taking over, by adopting also this demand to cancel Ukraine's foreign debt. The country is under an incredible burden of this foreign debt. The IMF is also has imposed some austerity measures, or at least there are demands, so that the further loans to service this debt are given. And so we postulate also to get together. Last week we met with a couple of Razem has organized, initiated a meeting for several parties from our region have responded to. We met in Warsaw. Socjalny Ruch from Ukraine was there. An activist from Kiev has arrived to speak in the Polish parliament. Also the Lithuanian Left Alliance and the Finnish Left Alliance, two social democratic parties from the Czech Republic and the Romanian party have signed this pledge to push this demand to cancel Ukrainian foreign debt. The country, if you do not want to supply weapons, you can help in taking this financial burden off the country so that it has the money to defend itself. And this is an anti-austerity measure, which should be close to your heart. Yeah, definitely we recommend this and listening to the Ukrainians. Yes.
I understood that is one of your demands also to the Polish government, or does the Polish government support this demand to take the Ukrainian debt? And are there further demands? So you said you are at the moment have quite a similar position to the conflict as the Polish government does, surprisingly. But are there differences between both of you? And what are your demands to your own government at the moment?
With the government, maybe that is a topic of the humanitarian help that maybe we can talk about later. But those proposals, especially the debt, but also excluding two Russian banks that are still left, that are outside of the, you know, the blocking of SWIFT. Those are proposals that I feel are truly leftist and not supported or brought up by other parties in Poland. And to be honest with you, I think we basically are now in position where we feel that the government is doing many things in line with what we believe in, but actually pushing our agenda is actually our role abroad. Also, as a party that is, you know, not that influential in Poland, we feel that, you know, our job talking to you and the rest of the left, and bringing, you know, having alliances that would support certain causes. And I think that's why we are also here, because we believe that there are groups where we always can find, you know, things we can agree on and push for them together. So that's definitely something that Razem, even not the whole left, but Razem is strongly pushing for. Where we have problem with the government is the humanitarian crisis that is happening right now, both in Poland and Germany, and basically us NGOs, volunteers, doing everything possible where the state unfortunately has failed. And I think our role here is, I don't know if you heard that trains from Poland are no longer coming to Germany because Germany just couldn't, you know, we actually have a protest tomorrow where we wanted to call, you know, German authorities to do more, but they actually realized that, you know, they cannot. And here comes a question of European solidarity and, you know, European way of handling this problem. I know that I speak as a Polish, you know, and we refused to offer that help in 2015. We're of course aware of it. But yeah, that's the only way to manage this crisis now, European response. And I think here we can also work on it together. Thanks.
So I think one topic that had also been pretty has been pretty prominent in the discussion in Germany, I understand, is the embargo on all Russian fossil fuels. I do not think that this topic exists in Poland that strongly in the arena either. We are definitely in our statements called for such an embargo as soon as possible. Of course, this is up for debate, how much this will impact the societies in Germany and in Poland. The truth is that we are even slightly, I think 10% more dependent on Russian gas and so on than Germany. So this has to be considered, but it has to be considered quickly. I think we can, our position is that we as societies who have also profited from trade with Russia, you know, perhaps we should consider it carefully, but maybe we should take this responsibility and try and sacrifice a little bit for the blood that is being shed by Ukrainians. Yeah, this is one of the demands that I don't think the Polish government is currently pushing yet. Yeah, and that is definitely connected with further sanctioning. What you could do also, I think, is what Magda mentioned. The situation of refugees. So there is definitely a need for European solidarity to support Poland. I know that this is maybe sometimes hard for the leftists in the West when you think about what the Polish government has done, for example, in general to refugees, refusing accepting refugees, doing these completely horrible things on the Belarusian border last autumn, where there were Yemeni and Afghan refugees, but many also others from Africa trying to cross a Polish border from Belarus because they were pushed by Lukashenko, who is of course Putin's ally. So it was a ploy basically by both of them. But never mind, they had the right to, these refugees, they had the right to asylum in Poland, and they were denied this right. And Razem's activists are still there, and they were there within NGO groups, translating, helping them with, you know, kind of legal matters. So I understand that this might be a little bit hard today to say, okay, yeah, why should we help this government, or why should we be in solidarity with Poland, who is not perfect or even, you know, very bad towards refugees. But the situation is dramatic. So the cities are full in the sense there is no accommodation anymore. For example, in Kraków, in the southern regions of Poland, the situation is really hard. But also in my northwestern part of Poland, in Szczecin, there are simply no flats anymore. The Polish people have really shown their solidarity and their heart. But in the long run, when there will be more refugees coming, we need financial support and also pretty practical measures. So, for example, I know that some towns in the Netherlands and in Germany have organized some facilities for the refugees, and they are also sending buses to Kraków, for example, to basically offer a ride and the flat somewhere in their municipalities. These are things that maybe take care of 20, 30, maybe up to 60 refugees at a time. But in this situation, everything, I think the country, Poland, and the war refugees will take any help possible.
Yeah, thank you for bringing up already the question of refugees. I wanted to ask it too. You already mentioned like the attitude Poland's government had, but also bigger parts of Polish society, I would say, had to refugees in the past. Do you think that has changed, like in a real deeper way?
Okay. I think, I mean, if we could go back to the crisis at the Polish-Belarus border a few months ago, I think, let's say, my friends who I would before probably wouldn't expect to be more pro-refugee, did show much bigger solidarity that was case. It would be case in 2015. But still, we cannot forget that what is happening in Poland now is unfortunately, pretty racist thing. Ukrainians are much more welcome than people from other countries. And of course, this is also being brought up all the time, that there are people of color there and we have to take care of them. And that's also what Razem has been doing in Parliament to make sure that all of them can come and all of them can get help here. So yeah, when it comes to refugees, also Polish government, different countries have different solutions how to legally host people. Of course, they come for 3 months. They don't need any documents. But then, what about their future? And Polish government was very well prepared for that. Even before the invasion, they already had an announcement saying, "Here you come, you go to the office, you apply for a temporary or permanent stay, and you just become, a citizen, sort of, and of course you work." So let's not forget about it. That it's very convenient for Poland, where actually there was big lack of labor, especially in construction and so on. And of course, our ruling party doesn't forget about it. So it was much easier. And of course, it's in a way, I think, way of showing, you see, we were right. We just always wanted to choose our refugees, and here, are the ones we wanted. So we are happy to take them. So this is how it looks now.
So may I ask again, you don't see it as a change of policy in government politics, but it's still the racist thing you mentioned?
I mean, the government was always very supportive of, Polish minorities living in the East. It's really part of this, nationalist right-wing agenda and of course, Ukrainians are brothers. And so, of course, I'm happy that we can help them, but it is very clear that it is, certain groups are welcome. And I hope it will, maybe, have some impact in the future where we will have to host people from other countries.
So you don't see it as a change to have a European solidarity system to take in refugees, to start at this point where Poland needs this help to get it established as a standard procedure on European level?
Well, I think it's so many things have changed anyways in viewpoints and, stable political attitudes in Germany and in Poland. Miracles have been happening in the last few weeks. So perhaps what I would hope for is that the Polish public opinion will become a little bit more sensitive when they will, right now, they see it with their own eyes, what it means to be on the run, what it actually entails, and also how structurally demanding, organizing and helping refugees is. So I think this will come from below. I do not. So I hope this will come from below. I do not see a political change in the government that suddenly now they, stand up and say, "Oh, we were wrong. We should have taken all these Syrian refugees in and spread them solidariously in a solidarity way across Europe." But definitely what is happening now will be an argument in the future. And we will definitely be making this argument that, no person is illegal and war refugees are war refugees. There is no, we shouldn't, discriminate where exactly they come from. If they cross the Ukrainian border, they should be taken care of and they should get the respect and the equal rights to Polish citizens. And all the chances and all access to public service. So this is what we stressed in our joint statement with these left parties from the region that are also receiving refugees, such as Lithuania and the Czech Republic. we said that quite explicitly in our joint statement that labor condition, access to housing and education, healthcare, and so on should be accessible to refugees. So we are definitely for equal rights here, and we will be pushing for this. But we also need European Union's help, solidarity, and financial support, because we will have to shore up our social systems. We need to, this is also a chance for the Polish left and our causes. Perhaps this also, apart from changing the public's general view on refugees, this will also change maybe the more liberal view of Polish people on public services, that they are important. This is also an opportunity for us in the parliament politically to push for more investment. So yeah, we see opportunities here, but of course our first concern is to prevent exploitation of refugees from Ukraine or other countries, because of course if you have 1 million and soon 2 million people here that are not from here, they are definitely exposed to all sorts of exploitation. So this is what we want to prevent, and that's why we will also work with partners from the regions on this.
Thank you. I got the first two questions from the audience, and I will ask them in German, if it's okay for you. The first question was, gibt es die Befürchtung, dass Russland Polen angreifen könnte? That's the first one. And the second one ist die Ratlosigkeit der europäischen Linken nicht auch Ausdruck davon, dass uns als europäische Linke ein gemeinsamer Entwurf von Europa fehlt, auch als Fundament einer Sicherheitsarchitektur in Europa? This question points more to, maybe I wanted to ask you also about this, so it's great that the question came up. That's more about your, I think, in general concept of a European system of security, which you also draw in your paper in Berliner Zeitung. So maybe you could start answering the first question about the threat that Russia could attack Poland too, and then we come to the European system of security.
Magda, I would have something to say about the second one. Do you feel threatened by Putin as a Polish person?
So okay, so now is the question about, do we fear the attack? No, but on the other hand, I told you that I was already surprised once, so I can be surprised again. Do you want Zosia to talk about the European security now?
Well, I guess in a sense, yeah, maybe the first question, not immediately, not directly right now, right? In this, of course, this is paid for by Ukrainian blood, and you know, the kind of uneasy alliance that is NATO, that I can be relatively calm about my parents and my sister in Poland, but this doesn't change the fact that our perspective in general on Polish security is very different than the Western one, or in Western Europe. So this is also why I guess you wanted to talk to us. It is very obvious to us that we as a country are always placed next to this great nuclear power that is the greatest country in the world, you know, the biggest one, and has been hostile to us, and you know, aggressive towards our country long before the US had much influence over this world. So this goes back to Tsarist times, and Putin is now kind of going back to this 19th century philosophy. He said it himself. He has these objectives, and we know this tune, right? We know this tune. This is the tune that I have been raised with. My grandparents were telling me about, you know. So I am very happy that Germany has mixed itself out of this narrative, you know, that Poland is threatened by two imperialist kind of post-colonial countries, which is a very tough place to be in. I do not feel this threat from Germany, obviously, because you have gone through this transformation towards a more pacifist, certainly on the left, you know, mindset. So that's great, but this, as you see, that the threat of Russia and of Russian imperialism is always there. So this colors our perception of all the political and geopolitical and security objectives of Europe, and the way how we feel and we are empathic with Ukraine, right? So for us, it is obvious why we should help them and how we should help them, including weapons and things like that. We know what this means. So in that sense, I'm not threatened that there will be an imminent attack. That was the word I was looking for. But we and our partners in the region on the let's call it the eastern flank of NATO, we are always faced with this possibility. So it definitely is something that we always take, have in the back of our heads.
I think we were even joking, if we can call it a joke, that Poland wouldn't be first on the list. But our partners from Lithuania, for example, I think they definitely seemed much more worried to me. So it all depends, as I think we can summarize it basically from from your perspective and how far you are from Russia. So yes, I think we fear less than other partners, and I think seeing somebody being so worried also affects you and reminds you about the possible threats.
Also, I mean, this is something that has caught my attention, that in the European debates on security and the possibility of a Russian attack on the territory of EU or NATO in Europe, we don't talk much about these Iskander rockets that are able to carry nuclear loads that are basically stationed since very many years in the Kaliningrad Oblast, which is, when people are talking about, NATO is stationing more and more troops responding to the Russian invasions, let's say 2014 and so on, is somehow this little strip of land that is kind of sandwiched between the Baltic states and Poland is rarely mentioned. Russia has rockets there that are able to hit Berlin, Stockholm, and we don't discuss that much. And I think in the new European security architecture, we should definitely talk about Kaliningrad with the Russians. I don't know if with Putin, probably with someone else, but yeah. So that's one let's say center of attention that we might think about if we think about whether there is an imminent threat and how possible it is.
Maybe you can talk more about what you think the outline of this new European security structure would be.
Yeah, so this is definitely something we should talk about. This is a topic we would love to have a debate about with you. Since we are passionate Europeans, we think that along with the Polish population, which is approving of, at least I don't know if many approve of how the current state and the structure of EU works, but in general this is something symbolic for us, the EU accession and membership, and definitely there's a lot of support. And Razem also bases our alternative to the, let's say, previous order, which is kind of concentrating on this let's say rivalry between two imperialisms, the US and Russia. We think that this is Cold War thinking that is first of all excluding our region, treating it a little bit like a chessboard where you talk over our heads and decide things whether we should be neutral or not. That's very much 1968 view that we think is a kind of a narrative that is first of all harmful. A little bit colonialist and arrogant in its attitude. So we do not believe in this coupling also that anything the US does, Russia responds to or has to respond to. We think there is, of course, a connection between what the US does and Russian foreign policy, but Russia has shown particularly well now that it has its own objectives that kind of determine its foreign policy. They want to consolidate the power at home and, you know, fight the emancipatory movements. Putin wants to basically, you know, use his foreign policy to consolidate his oligarchic power. And he wants to gain back the territory that he considers basically his, which is mainly those weaker post-Soviet states that he so likes to invade and kind of. So this is this purely imperialist impulse that he acts upon, right? So it's not always like a coupling of action and reaction of the US. This is too US centric, we feel. And coming back to Europe, our solution to this, of course, which is kind of maybe obvious, but I think it's also empowering, and we as European left parties should think more about that, about strategic autonomy of Europe in general, strategic autonomy in terms of energy, in terms of security, but also the military. So there is an initial thought that we formulated in Razem in terms of security policy already in 2016. There are documents and statements and articles that we wrote that there should be some defense structure on the European level. I wouldn't call it a European army. I think we called it something like a defense service. That would also be included in all these crises that we talked about with Magda, like refugee crises that could, you know, assist. So apart from this being an opportunity to rethink what NATO should be, we feel that if it should exist, we are not very, you know, in favor of all these military blocs in general, particularly ones that you know kind of stand in front of each other with nuclear weapons. Of course, this is not good. But this is, of course, an opportunity to rethink the role of NATO. We think that this should be a purely defensive alliance, of course, as it was intended to be. But our new you know, kind of alignment and ideas that we would like to talk to you about are based on Europe and the kind of energy and military autarky of the continent. And I think Germany will have to play a large role here. This is not comfortable for you from what I see from all these debates regarding financing of the military. Yeah, it's a big country in the middle of Europe, 70 million people, and it could be also such an European defense service could also be a way for Germany to find a strategy how to defend itself if needed, and to have some security architecture in Europe that will show solidarity with our region, because we need this security, as you see. But would not put that much emphasis on, I don't know, German remilitarization, or, you know, the growing again of the German military power. You know, we would spread the effort then, and also the responsibility and all these maybe historically not very comfortable things over the whole continent. This is going to be difficult. It's not so easy because we are used, every country has its own interests. But I guess Putin has helped us a little bit here to, you know, become a little bit more united in our goals, I hope.
Gibt es noch mehr Fragen aus dem Publikum? Bis jetzt habe ich noch keine weitere zugespielt bekommen. Also ihr könnt gerne weiter Fragen im Chat stellen. Wir haben noch so eine grobe Viertelstunde, würde ich sagen. Sonst stelle ich noch eine weitere Frage. Coming again to the security architecture, in like one of the most common slogans among Die Linke so far was "There is no security in Europe without Russia." What do you think about that?
Sorry, but I'm sorry, it's a bit hard to answer considering the situation, right? And everything we just said. And I mean, I don't have ready answer here, but actually that links me to the question I sort of had in my head when we started talking about NATO and European security, because I also think, and And I would be very interested. So no, I don't think that's true. And I would actually like to hear from you how you see it if, on one hand, NATO isn't the answer. On the other hand, of course, I guess like weaponizing your country isn't the answer too. So I'm just gonna, ping pong kind of, yeah, I don't think that's the Putin and Russia isn't the answer. So yeah, I was wondering what your stance is here, or which direction do you think you would go now?
Yeah, I think I would be the first one to support Russian resistance effort if there was something to put my hopes in that I could put at a higher priority than providing assistance to Ukrainians at the moment. There is no such hope yet, right? We are in the middle of a war effort where there are, hospitals being shelled. I hear that there are hostages within the hospitals taken by Putin. This is an aggressive invasion, and the Ukrainians are fighting for their lives and for the sovereignty of their country. I think we should put our utmost attention to helping them right now, including military support, financial support, canceling their foreign debt, doing everything to stop Putin and to give a chance to Ukrainians to regain their country and to have peace there. If it includes a diplomatic effort somewhere down the line, of course, that would be great. But at the moment, there is no opening. I don't think so. So Russia still insists on those ridiculous, non-negotiable, demands that NATO goes back to 97 state, that basically Ukraine submits to whatever Putin wants to take, right? So the thing is, no European security without Russia, and I understand that a lot of effort on the Western left is being given to, or maybe I'm not yet kind of quite clear why there is so much priority put on the chance of a Russian resistance. The only 60% of Russians at the moment of invasion support this special military operation. Then it's also, I think it's misguided to think that, and it's also this kind of Cold War, being stuck in this Cold War 1968 moment, to think and to hope for some revolution from below in Russia at this, given the situation. This is not a Vietnam moment. This is not America in 1968. There is no student movement, unfortunately. Now look how Putin is quashing any dissent. How many people he has arrested. Of course, this gives hope that there are people that are still speaking up, and they are incredibly brave. But it's a matter of accent, a matter of how we move the priorities. For us, it is clear that the priority is to support the Ukrainians in their fight. Next is to support Russian resistance, and without this kind of misguided belief too much that this is like a Vietnam-like moment. Yeah.
I could just add, I think the big problem, because I think we all the time, remind that we are with people like Russian people who oppose this war. But the problem is the access, how do you access them? How do you talk to people? We're basically cut off, right? I don't know, the only way is to try and sponsor the last brave people who try to do independent media. But just, it's, even if the security is there talking to Russia, we have no tools right now, really, and this is, I think, big problem, because I feel that it'd be great if there will be, there will be one guy who has this opinion and maybe a few others who, let's do our diplomacy and they can be convinced. But unfortunately, it's not how it looks like right now, right?
It may seem I know that it may seem as kind of non-diplomatic, warmongering, cruel, and so on. It's just it's not that. As Magda said, we would like to see and support, and we did before this war started. We had a statement when there were democratic protests, I think last year in Russia, where we stand with the Russian people. This is very, very important to say that the ones that are being exploited by this oligarchic system, by this turbo capitalist Russia, and by the kind of great Russia fantasy of Putin are the Russian people. They are the ones that are being exploited and used and killed right now in the Ukraine. And for the sake of what? For these yachts, right? For all these riches that are still hidden in Europe somewhere or in tax havens, and for Putin's system. So we had always been on the side of the Russian people, dismantling the oligarchy that is gripping Russia. But the invasion has changed the accents, right? The invasion has changed the priorities. We, especially as me and Magda said, we do not see an opening at the moment for serious diplomacy with the Russian government that represents the people, you want it or not, right, in some way, and also no chance for the Vietnam moment yet, right? So we think we have to force them to the table. We have to by supporting Ukrainians in any way we can. First.
Zofia, I would like to just briefly add that I wouldn't talk about the Vietnam moment, more about the Afghanistan moment. Well, it's a glimmer of hope only, but there's some movement maybe with the organization of mothers from the conscripts, yeah, and we have maybe same economic pressure like at the end of the Soviet Union. So there may be some change inside of government, which maybe result in removing Putin, but then still would be unclear which power disposes him and what follows, and maybe it's not even getting better then. So that is still speculative. Magdalena, you ask about our position in terms of ping-ponging the question. And of course, we have a debate. It just started inside the left in Germany, the whole left and left party, and we are only a small part. And well, I deeply feel since a longer time that it's not the time to end NATO, like it's always in our program, or even leave NATO or just dissolve it. And of course, we have a good answer. And I think that is a big task on the side of internal discussion to get away from the Cold War logic of our so-called peace movement, because it's not really a peace party thing. I think it's really a big need for discussion to just say, okay, what kind of militarization is absolutely needed in terms of territorial European self-defense, and what kind of militarization we have to strongly resist. Yeah. And well, we had this question when the genocidal attack on the Kurdish people in Rojava and other places in Syria and Iraq were going on, and we had also debates here, German-wide, but also in Bremen. Would we support delivery of weapons to the Kurds? And well, personally, me, I can only speak in this manner about me, but many other comrades here in Bremen were pro delivery of weapons to Kurdish people for self-defense against genocide, of course, because we are also and I think even more anti-fascist movement, and therefore we always have to be on the side of people who want to defend themselves against genocide and murder and fascism, of course.
Regarding this, the calls for peace, if I may, Magda, just quickly, because I know that this is a very strong movement, particularly in Germany, right? It's a kind of a point of view which is natural to take if you are a former colonist, aggressive, formerly aggressive citizen of a country that used to be a colonist, and like Nazi Germany and everything. It's definitely something that comes naturally to call for peace and less militarization and no war. So disarmament and demilitarization. It's intuitive and I understand it, but it comes from a place of safety also, right? It comes unfortunately from that fortunate position, which people in Eastern Europe just cannot afford. And it's not only Eastern Europe. You mentioned, Norbert, quite a few other countries that they have pragmatic threats that real threats that surround them, and we should definitely always come these abstract calls for peace or pacifism on that abstract level is good from a place of safety or comfortable from a place of safety, but we should always at least consider what is going in, zoom in and hear the people, hear the Ukrainians, hear the Palestinians, hear the Kurdish people that what they need and what is their actual situation. So we are very much for this type of I guess we say that in our article, looking for strategic alliances. This may be an alliance also within the left that is helping to find some solution that helps practically at the moment those people that are struggling for their sovereignty. We have also found out that we have found more help, and we trust more those movements that are based also in Western Europe, that are based on trade unions. That are in touch with the people. There's less theory and more practice. We found now really true friends who care about Eastern Europe, who care about Ukraine and want to help. And these are usually those that stem from this type of tradition. So we going back to our roots, our base, our socialist values right now, with the support of trade unions that organize convoys, and have this also experience in the Balkan wars. And we would call for that. I mean, at least for the Linke to consider that, less theory, more action.
Also, if I could add, because I think at the very start I said that we don't really put that much, effort in convincing our government or audiences in Poland, because we actually feel that the solution is broader and it's in Europe. That's why this is where we go, right? And also, very shortly before, I want to say that was sort of a relief when Norbert said that that you would send guns. I mean, it's crazy when I hear it, but yeah, I feel like me and Zosia, we start feeling like this, crazy woman, like, oh no, this is naive pacifism. Let's just send war, weapons everywhere, which of course isn't the case. But of course, if you talk to the purely pacifist movements, this is how it comes across for sure. So it was a bit, yeah. So thank you for that voice.
Razem is definitely against, for example, possession of arms in Poland. We have always been very, very clearly against that. All sorts of stationing of rockets for no reason, some crazy escalation of militarization. This is suspect, of course, even from the point of view of feeding the weapon industry, right? But yeah, it's of course we are speaking now in the times of war, where we have a military effort and an aggressive invasion on our doorstep, and this changes a little bit our attitude. But Razem is definitely not a militarization party. We are very rooted in you know, this tradition, of course, more from the perspective of a neighbor, of an imperialist persuasion, that we always like to have these even necessary, like NATO, you know, safety valves. And therefore, I personally, I understand this. I am not so outraged that now Germany wants to invest in winter jackets and you know, shooting rifles and some functioning helicopters for the Bundeswehr. I think a responsible state, if the state takes its responsibilities, basic responsibilities, seriously, even if it has a very dark history, you know, it's a service. Think of it as a service for the citizens. The citizens have to be, you know, there has to be some basic security. The way I understand the German Bundeswehr is, you know, in a state that doesn't even, you know, allow for if there was a huge flooding crisis, or they are not able to help, right? So I don't know if 100 billion euros is necessary. The generals in Germany say that this will only be enough for basic equipment. I don't know. This is for you to judge whether it's too much or not. But we, as Poles, we do not find, you know, funding for military is not for us a call to, pardon me, arms. It's something to be discussed. It's not something that there are nuances to these type of political initiatives. We do not reject it outright. Yeah, because of probably our, you know, geopolitical position and traditions.
Thanks a lot, you both. There's one last question from the audience, and it is: do you support the idea of a United States of Europe?
Are we for federalization of Europe, Magda?
I mean, I think I would say yes. But of course, we have to talk about details, right? So when we will figure out our, you know, European strategies for different things, then I think then we can slowly start thinking about it, right? Because as we, I think, just said, there are areas where we definitely have to come closer and work on them. As the European Union, as we said, we love EU so much that we want to reform it, and we should do it. And then we maybe will talk about, you know, basically being one big state. But definitely, I also work on European issues professionally, and I wouldn't oppose it. But yeah, I think the time will come to talk about it more in future.
We are just before debates. We are debating with our experts in our environment on these European security architectures, and also the fact that, you know, Ukraine has been invited to join the European Union. So there is a new member potentially coming. So a further, you know, expansion of the EU. What does it mean? So we think, apart from helping the Ukrainian cause in their war effort, which is of course priority for us, along with the refugees, and finding ways to involve Europe in this, and canceling Ukrainian debt, I should stress once again. We are also engaging right now in kind of forward debates, particularly with those regional partners from the regional parties and our experts on Europe. So yeah, we are definitely deep into these topics.
Okay, thank you. I don't see any questions anymore from the audience, and I would say, okay, that's also kind of nice end to our debates. You gave us a lot of nice ping pong balls to discuss at home and to continue our internal discussions about foreign policy, security politics, and also about how is our perspective on the region you represent now today in this discussion, and how we can cooperate better in the future and how we can discuss such questions better in the future. And I personally hope very much that we will stay in contact and that we will have some other discussions about these topics and other topics again in the future. So dziękuję serdecznie. Thanks very much for being
Vielen
with
Dank
us.
für die Einladung.
And yeah, we're hoping to be contacted soon, you know, on the things where we agree on. I think the depth should be the first thing.
We are neighbors, just like Poland is neighbors with Ukraine. We are meant for each other and we should talk.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll stay in contact.
Ciao.
Do widzenia.
Do widzenia.
Do widzenia. Dziękujemy.
Cześć.
Bye.